So it says, write this quadratic in standard form. It is just multiplying a lot of stuff together. If you can multiply numbers, you're going to be totally fine. All right. That 4 is just going to wait patiently. And you're going to write the x minus 5 twice. Good, because it's squared. So it's a twin. You're just going to write it 2 times. You just can't be scared of doing a little writing. Like it's just going to be a little work. That's my pep talk. All right. So once again, the 4 is going to just hang out. And we're going to do FOIL. It's first, outside, inside, last. I'll talk you through it. X times x. X squared. Good. The outsides will give you minus 5x. The insides will give you minus 5x. So together, negative 10x. And then negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. So you just multiplied all that together. As a heads up, the other problems were breaking it apart. It's like you have to be able to do this forwards and backwards. And then we're just going to distribute the 4. So multiply everything by 4. That'll be 4x squared minus 40x plus, now 4 times 25 will be 100, but then minus 1, so 99. So literally you're just multiplying a bunch of stuff together. Just stay organized. A problem like that is not really about intelligence. It's more about organization. And just, you can't be scared to write some steps down. Okay. It involves work. Now 2 and 3, we're going to do that backwards, which is a little tougher. This is completing the square. Let's review. How do you complete the square? You take that middle number and do what to it? There's 2. Divide by 2 and square it. Okay, good. Wow, you guys remember that. That is awesome. All right, f of x equals. You're going to write down the first 2 terms. So x squared minus 8x. And I'll use another color here. 8 divided by 2. 4 squared. So we're going to add 16. And what I usually say is go ahead and give that a hug. Now, unfortunately, you're not allowed to just go around changing the problem. You can't do that. You have to maintain the integrity of the problem. So instead of 16, I want it to still be 19. So what do I put at the end to adjust? Plus 3. Because 16 plus 3 gives you 19. And then squared would be 16. Yeah, we can't just like change the problem. Like I can't just make it something different. So it has to still be a 19. Now the whole point of doing that is that you can write it as blank squared, like something, well, don't leave it as blank. Write it as blank squared and then decide what's going to go in the blank. It's going to be like x plus 2 or x minus 5, something like that. Follow the pattern. This one would be x minus 4. Good. That is your vertex form because you can now see what the vertex is. Using words like up, down, left, and right, how did this get transformed? But right 4, up 3, so your vertex will be 4, 3. You went right 4, up 3, so 4, 3. And on the axis of symmetry, that's the vertical line that cuts it in half. So hey, since it's vertical, would it be x equals or y equals? X equals 4. Are those numbers always going to match? Yeah, it's the center. That's where the middle of the parabola is, because symmetry. 3 is the exact same question. The only difference is I threw a 2 in front of there for you, okay? So that means you're going to factor out the 2, but only from the first 2, and you leave the x's where they are, okay? So we're going to factor 2 out of these. Here is the most common mistake I see. Are you ready? Don't write this. I see this all the time. People will put the 2 out front and go, oh, I'm going to factor it, and then write x squared plus 24x. Someone's going to do that on the quiz. I like almost guarantee it. What's wrong about that? It should be 12. And it's going to make the problem more difficult if you leave it at 24 because your numbers are going to start to get outrageous. All right, now we're going to divide by 2 and square. 12 divided by 2. 6 squared, 36. Now here's the only difference with this one. It's not really a 36. It's really a 2 times 36. So it's really a 72. You have to turn a 72 back into a 65. So we're going to have to subtract off some amount, 7, good. 72 minus 7 will give you 65. Count on your fingers if you need to. That's what I do. I'll say it again, but you got to stay quiet. 2 times 36 is 72. Minus 7 will give you that 65 that it was there, because you're not allowed to just change the problem, okay? If you were to distribute this 2 through here and then subtract 7, you would get what you started with. Like how we did in question 1, like how we multiplied that all together. Okay, we're just doing this process in reverse. So now the whole point is that you can write it as something squared. So write out, like, I call that the framework of it, or like the skeleton of the problem. Write it out blank, and then what's going to go in the blank? X plus 6, perfect. So that's your vertex form. So again, using words like up, down, left, and right, how did it shift? Okay, so hey guys, look, if we went left 6, visualize this with me, use your imagination. We went left 6 and down 7. Where's that center? Yeah, negative 6, negative 7. We went left 6. Here, I'll draw it for you. And we went left 6 and then down 7. So there's your center. The parabola is doing something like this. And then what's that axis of symmetry? Yeah, x equals, and then whatever that x number is, negative 6. Cool. Solve by factoring. We're going to split this apart. If we don't guess right on the first try, we're going to do try again. So, hey guys, what multiplies together to equal 6? Let's try 3 and 2, and I think that's going to be a good choice. What multiplies together to be 5? 1 and now I don't do signs until the very end. Leave off those pluses and minuses because it's just too much, all right? Do you want the 1 in the first parenthesis, or do you want the 1 in the second parenthesis? Okay, let's just see what happens. What are the outsides given us? Good, 15. The insides, 2. Well, 15 and 2 add and subtract to be 13. Yay, we did it. Okay, now the symbols. It's a positive 13. So I would need a positive 15. That's 3 times positive 5 minus 2. 15 minus 2 will give you 13. Please, 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 please. And I'll try to look through the quizzes as you're handing them in and give it back to you if you forget to do this, but I can't promise I'll get to all of them. Don't stop there. You need to actually follow through and get answers. Like you should get numeric answers. Set each of these equal to 0. What would you get from this one if you set it equal to 0 and solved it? You would add the 1, divide by 3, so 1/3. And then this one, you would subtract the 5, so negative 5. And then over 2, good. So just please don't forget to get answers. Again, I'll try to look through the quizzes as you're handing them in and give it back to you and be like, hey, you didn't finish, but I can't promise I'm going to get to all of them. So please try to remember to do that. This one's a difference of squares. How would you split 4? 2 and 2? I think we might have been overthinking that one. And then 81, 9 and 9. Do you see how there's no x's in the middle? Like it's missing? So the symbols are plus and minus because they'll cancel out. And then again, please don't forget to like get answers. They're going to almost be the exact same thing. What would you get for this first one? Yeah, negative 9 over 2. And then the other one, 9 over 2. Hey, Ms. Cole, will they always be the same but different signs like when it's like that? Yes, that's how that works. You okay on the front page? I feel like question 3 was a little bit tough. The rest of that's not too terrible. It's this. Is that okay? I'm trying as hard as I can to make it clear for everybody. All right, solve by completing the square. It won't factor anyway. First thing you're going to do, write down the first 2 terms, leave a gap, and then you want to move that 3 to the other side. So it'll be equals negative 3 because you're subtracting it to the other side. And then you divide by 2 and square. So 10 divided by 2, 5 squared, 25. Add it to both sides. Yeah, you would have ended up with a fraction if you did. I did not put a fraction on your quiz. Of course. You think I want to grade it? I don't. You guys realize everything you do, I have to do too, right? Except times 50. So the whole point of doing that is you can write it as something squared. What's the something? X plus 5, good, equals, what is that, 22? And then don't forget to keep going. What would be the next step to get rid of the squared? Okay, when you put a square root, plus and minus. So x plus 5 equals plus and minus square root of 22. Now, if it splits, you should do that, but this one doesn't. And what I mean by that, for example, let me just make up an example here. Say you had square root of 24. What would that split into? Yeah, good. And then square root of 4. Yeah, do you guys, thank you. Do you remember what I'm saying? Like, if it splits, please do that. This one just doesn't, okay? That was just an example, right? And then your last step is subtract the 5. Do you remember where we write it though? Yeah, in the front, -5 plus and minus square root of 22. And just to hammer this point home, how many answers is that? 2, because one for the plus and one for the minus. And I think you guys were saying your algebra 2 teachers actually made you write it separately. That was good. I'm glad they did that. I'm not going to do that, but I want you to understand there's 2 answers. This one's the same thing. It's just a little tougher because I threw a 3 in front. Okay. We're going to take out the 3, but only from the first 2 terms. It won't go into 7 anyway. So I usually try to make that third number something that wouldn't work anyhow. So you almost can't like mess it up. Like for example, if I made it a 9, then it would be like sort of tricky. Like I try to make it a number that's not going to work anyhow. All right, so this will be x squared plus not 12, 4. X. Leave a gap, and I'm going to subtract the 7 to the other side. So divide by 2 and square. 4 is kind of weird because it'll just be 4, but it's not 4 over here because it's actually 3 times 4, which is 12. It's not hard to multiply 3 times 4. It's just, it's like one more thing you got to remember to do. So I can appreciate that that's tough. So the whole point is you can write it as something squared. And what goes in the like blank? X plus 2. This side would be 5. And then you just have to keep going. What would be the next step? Divide over the 3. You cannot, just to be clear, you can't distribute a 3 into there because of the squared. Okay, divide it to the other side. It'll just be 5/3, whatever that is. 5/3 is a great number. Don't discriminate. All right, and then what? Square root. So it's going to be x plus 2 equals plus and minus square root of 5/3. And then last step, subtract 2. So -2 plus and minus square root of 5/3, which is a great answer. Don't discriminate. In fact, if it looks like a disaster, you probably did it right. Usually in pre-calc, like somewhere around like this time or like a little in a couple of weeks, if anyone gets like a nice, neat, normal answer, they come up to me and ask what they did wrong. They're like, I got 3. Did I do something wrong? Like, nah. Whatever you get is whatever you get. All right, and then I threw you a word problem. These are about things that go up and come back down. Like we threw a ball into the air, it went up, it came back down. It's going to follow a parabola. So that's what this one's about. A ball is thrown in the air, it follows this. Time is in seconds, height is in feet. Here's the thing with units. I make them worth something. So if you forget to put them, you lose that point, those points. Conversely, if you forget how to do the problem, make up an answer and put seconds and feet because I'll give you something for the units. So like just make sure you put them on there and I'll try to remember to say that when I pass this out. So what is the maximum? All right, it goes up and comes back down. We had a teeny little formula. I didn't make you memorize the whole quadratic formula, but you remember the teeny little one that'll give you that center? Negative over 2a. Good, there we go. Negative b over 2a. That's the only one you got to remember. Negative b over 2a. And here's what's going to happen. You'll all walk in here and go, oh, we have a quiz? And then you'll get out your quiz review and you'll look at it and you'll remember this long enough until I pass out. You know how that works. Like, all right, so in this situation, what's b? 12, good. So it'll be -12 over 2 times -2 is A. It will always be that way and the negatives will cancel. So that's 12 over 4, which is 3, which is not the answer. 3 is the time at which it happened. If you want, you have to plug it back in. If you want the actual height that the ball was at, you have to take 3 and plug it back in up here. So let's see, 3 squared, 9 times -2, -18, plus 12 times 3, 36, plus 4. Okay, 36 plus 4 will be 40, so that's a nice, like, even number to deal with. 40 minus 18, 22. So your answer is 22 feet at time 3 seconds. And that's how we would talk. If I asked you what's the height of the ball, you wouldn't go 3, 22. You know what I'm saying? Like, you would say it was 22 feet. And then if I asked you further what time, you'd be like, well, 3 seconds. When does it is on the ground, how far in the air is it? Here. Perfect. Take the whole equation and set it equal to 0. Now, how you solve it is up to you, but you do want to be a good noticer. What do you notice goes into all of 2, and specifically -2? My suggestion, and I'm not going to give you bad advice because the grading is a lot easier for me if all the answers are right. Okay, divide everything by -2. 0 is a cool number because it sort of just absorbs that and it'll still equal 0. Okay, so divide everything by -2. That'll be t squared minus 6t minus 2 equals 0. Now, don't write this. But if it factored, you would want to try this because it's the quickest, easiest method. Unfortunately, this won't factor. Why not? Like, here, look at what would happen if you tried. Don't write this because I'm going to have to erase it. But, like, why won't it work? This would split into what? 2 and 1, which won't add up to 6. All right, if you do 2 plus 1, get it to equal 6, let me know because that's the issue. Okay. So if factoring won't work, what are we going to do instead? Yeah, complete the square. Leave a gap. We're going to add that 2 to the other side. Divide by 2 and square. 9. Plus 9 to both sides. I really wish, I'm writing it in green so it looks different. It doesn't even show up on there. All right, anyway, this will be something squared. What's the something? T minus, you know, like in T minus 3 seconds. You ever hear that? Like you're doing rocket science. You are literally rocket scientists. Congratulations. All right, equals 11. And then just don't forget to keep going like you want an actual answer. We're going to square root. Now, I will not take off on the quiz for this because for heaven's sake, but technically you don't want the plus minus on this one. You only want the positive answer. And why is that? You don't have negative time. If you put plus minus, I will not mark it wrong though, because like, for heaven's sake, okay? And then last step, add over the 3. So it'll be 3 plus square root of 11 seconds. If you forget to write seconds, I have to take off because I need the units, but about what would square root of 11 be? Like it's kind of close to square root of 9. So it'd be like 3 point something plus another 3. So it'd be like 6 point something seconds. I just want you to understand, like, I know that that looks really goofy, but it is actually a like decimal answer. We just don't know exactly what it is without a calculator.